Today, we're diving into one of the greatest survival stories ever told. This is the story of how our distant ancestors made it through on a frozen planet. And trust me, this isn't just about dealing with some cold weather. It's an epic tale of intelligence, incredible invention, and a kind of resilience that's almost hard to wrap your head around.
Okay, let's just start with this. I want you to really think about it for a second. Imagine a winter, but it doesn't end in a few months. It lasts for thousands of years. How would you possibly survive? There are no grocery stores, no heated houses. It's just you and your small group against a world that is completely covered in ice. For early humans, this wasn't a hypothetical. It was their reality. So, to really get how they pulled this off, we have to first understand the world they were up against. This wasn't just a few bad snowstorms. The entire planet had transformed into this incredibly harsh, icy wasteland. Geologists call this period the Pleistocene epoch. And this deep freeze went on for a mind-boggling amount of time. I mean, to put it in perspective, all of our recorded history, everything from the ancient Egyptians to today, is just a tiny, tiny sliver of this era. Humans were born into this world, and they evolved right in the middle of this global cold spell. Now, with so much of the Earth's water frozen solid in glaciers that were literally miles thick, all that water had to come from somewhere. It came from the oceans. This caused the global sea level to drop, and not just by a little bit. We're talking by as much as 400 feet. So the coastlines we see on a map today would have looked completely different. And one of the wildest consequences of those falling sea levels was that new land emerged from the ocean, creating these huge land bridges. The most famous one is called Beringia, and it connected Asia to North America. It literally allowed humans and animals to just walk from one continent to another, usually following the giant herds of game. So, you're faced with this frozen world. How in the world did we make it? We didn't have sharp claws or thick fur. What we had was our brain. So let's take a look at the essential toolkit, the checklist that early humans developed to not just scrape by, but actually thrive. Okay, think of these 4 things as the absolute cornerstones of Ice Age life. Getting each one of these right wasn't a hobby. It was a life-or-death skill. Let's break down just how critical each one of them was. First up, fire. You know, it is almost impossible to overstate how important this was. In a world of freezing darkness, the fire was the center of every single community. It was warmth against a cold that could kill you in minutes. It was light during the very long, dark nights. It was protection from giant predators. And, so importantly, it was a way to cook food, which made it safer, unlocked more nutrients, and was way easier to digest. All right, next on the list, tools. Making the best tools wasn't easy. It required a very precise skill called knapping. And you can basically think of knapping as the high-tech of the Stone Age. It's this art of striking a stone, like flint, in just the right way to chip off pieces and create an edge that was sharper than a modern surgical scalpel. Seriously. And with skills like knapping, they built this incredible, diverse toolkit. We're talking about specialized spear points for hunting big game, razor-sharp flint knives for butchering, and scrapers for cleaning animal hides. And get this, they even made delicate bone needles. That's right, needles, which meant they could sew, and that was an absolute game changer. So let's talk about shelter. A nice, dry cave was obviously option number 1. But what do you do when there aren't any caves around? Well, you innovate. Out on those vast, treeless plains, early humans became these amazing engineers. They used the massive bones and tusks from mammoths to build sturdy frames for huts, and then they'd cover them in thick animal skins to create a warm, stable home. Speaking of mammoths, humans were definitely not alone out there. They shared this icy world with some of the most incredible and frankly terrifying creatures to ever walk the earth.
The scientific term for these huge animals is megafauna. It's pretty simple. Mega means big, and fauna means animals. So literally big animals. And they were truly enormous. We're talking about things like giant ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, and of course, the iconic woolly mammoth.
Just to give you a little perspective on maybe the most famous megafauna, a woolly mammoth was about the same height as a modern elephant, but it was totally built for the cold. It had this thick, shaggy coat of fur, a heavy layer of fat under its skin for insulation, and those incredible, long, curved tusks. They were just perfectly adapted for a world of ice and snow. Now, hunting one of these giants was insanely dangerous. It required brilliant strategy and, most of all, teamwork. Hunters had to cooperate using the landscape itself to help trap these massive animals. And once they made a kill, absolutely nothing went to waste. The meat was food, the fat was fuel for lamps, the hides became clothing and shelter, and even the bones were used for tools and to build those huts we talked about. But fire, tools, and teamwork, that was only part of the story. Humans had a few secret superpowers. These were the intangible things, the advantages that really set them apart and pretty much guaranteed their long-term survival. So what was the most powerful tool of all? Well, it wasn't made of stone or bone. It was language. The ability to communicate complex, abstract ideas was the absolute game changer for our species.
Just think about everything that language makes possible. Suddenly, you can plan a really complicated hunt with your group. You can warn someone about a predator that's hiding just over the hill. But maybe most important of all, you can teach your children everything you know. This allowed knowledge to be passed on, which sparked this incredible revolution in how humans thought and worked together.
And that shared culture, it went way beyond just survival skills. Deep inside caves, protected from the elements, they left behind these stunning, vivid paintings of the world they saw. This art is amazing because it shows us that they had complex minds, they had deep emotions, and this real desire to communicate and record their experiences. Their lives had meaning and purpose far beyond just finding their next vehicle. So ultimately, language and culture created something incredibly powerful, a collective memory. The sum total of everything everyone in the group knew could be passed down from one generation to the next. That shared knowledge was way more powerful than any spear or stone knife. It was the real key to their long-term adaptation and survival. Well, the Ice Age didn't last forever. The world changed again, pretty dramatically, and those changes have left a permanent mark on our planet, and on us. So let's look at how this ancient story connects right to our world today. Right around 11,000 years ago, the Great Thaw began. As temperatures shot up, the massive glaciers started to melt, which caused sea levels to rise and flood all those land bridges. The world became warmer and wetter. Forests started to grow where there had once been frozen tundra. And the giant megafauna, so perfectly adapted for the cold, just couldn't cope. They disappeared. And humans once again had to adapt to a completely brand new world. So what is the legacy of this incredible time? Well, physically, the glaciers literally carved out the lakes and valleys we see all around us today. But maybe more importantly, the challenges of the Ice Age forged our minds. It hardwired us to be creative problem solvers and innovators. It's the ultimate proof of human resilience, and it really laid the foundation for everything that came next, for all of modern civilization. And that really leaves us with one last big thought. When you boil it all down, the story of the Ice Age is the story of surviving massive climate change. Our ancestors faced their challenge, and they adapted. Today, we're facing our own changing climate. So the real question is, what will our story of survival be?